What's up, guys? JT Anime and Nerd here, giving you all that nerdy goodness. Today, I want to go over my thoughts on Pixar's newest movie, Elemental. Mostly the story, but I will give my general thoughts on the subjects of the soundtrack and the animation. I do also want to issue a spoiler warning, as I will pretty much be spoiling most, if not all, of the movie. First off, I've got to say I've never been in more in love with a Pixar story than I am with Elemental. I even put it alongside the Golden Year greats as Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, and even The Incredibles. I'm not even joking. I, that's how much I love this movie. Now, don't get me wrong, the movie has its flaws, but they don't take away from how the movie makes me feel. It may be a surprise for many to know that I am a sucker for animated romance movies, which are my favorite kinds of animated movies, and the romance in this film feels like something you'd never expect from Pixar. What the main Walt Disney Studio is known for, I feel that Pixar did way better in a heartbeat, at least when it comes to the romance department. Despite how cliche the movie is as an animated rom-com, I feel that the story builds and sets it up so incredibly and realistically. Ember and Wade are officially my most favorite animated couple in all time. Many of the recent Pixar movies like Luca, Soul, or Turning Red were okay in my eyes, but kind of became movies that instead of being subtle about the main message, just shoves the main message in our faces, whether physically or verbally. Elemental is an example of kind of shoving the main message in our faces, but does it in a way that makes it work, in my opinion. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Spoilers ahead. So the story revolves around the daughter of a fire immigrant family whose name is Ember, and who's being prepped to take over her father's fire shop. But her temper seems to be getting in the way of that. Yeah, with how the customers act, it's really no wonder why she gets so triggered easily and explodes each time. As most of the customers she deals with are the kinds of customers who think they know better than to run the shop that her family owns. It actually kind of shows just how there are things that some people aren't meant for, and things that some people are meant for. As Ember would later realize that she doesn't want to take over the shop, pretty much, I'm pretty sure because of all the frustrating customers. However, things don't start getting out of hand until Ember loses her temper in the basement of the fire shop and meets a water person named Wade, who would eventually turn her life upside down. Now, when it comes to the characters in this movie, Ember and Wade really steal the show for me. They are the textbook definition of great character chemistry. Even Wade points that out later in the film during one of the most intense scenes of the movie. There's even a montage of them just going on dates, and it feels so genuine and realistic that I just can't even think of a better animated couple in any franchise. Seriously, I dare anyone to even bring up a better movie couple in the comments below. I love Ember's wild yet reserved spirit. It definitely gives me the vibe of the awesome girl next door trope. I also find that it complements Wade, as he fills in that clumsy, ordinary boy who likes girl trope, but in a way that works for this movie. It's cliche, but it works in my opinion. Although I gotta admit, Wade had a few jerk moments in this movie, such as, of course, taking his job just a little too seriously and was willing to get the shop shut down despite his feelings towards his own actions. Then, of course, the most intense scene where Wade crashes Ember's inheritance party in order to tell her how he feels, and to encourage her to let her father know that she didn't want to inherit the shop. It was a jerk move, but a necessary one in my opinion. One of the realistic aspects I found to be incredible pertaining to the buildup of the romance between Ember and Wade is a scene during their mission to help save Ember's father's fire shop by searching for a canal leak via hot air balloon. Ember explains how she wanted to see a special flower, but because she and her father were fire, they weren't allowed inside the garden to see it. This story not only touched Wade's empathetic side, but he was so easy to talk to that Ember admitted she was scared on that day, without even thinking twice. This would later set up a scene where Wade, along with a side character named Gale, helps Ember see these flowers for the first time, leading to one of the most romantic scenes in the movie where Ember and Wade touch and dance for the first time. To me, at the end of the day, the romance is truly the highlight of the movie, and I can just never get enough of it. Now, Ember, of course, has her own issues to deal with, mainly her feelings of obligation toward her family. This is kind of set up early in the film when Ember's parents, Bernie and Cinder, explained that they left their homeland called Fireland in order to give Ember and themselves a better life due to a destructive storm that seemingly left them homeless in Fireland. It was actually one storm, but I'm assuming it wouldn't probably be the last one, and so I'm also think that's another reason why they left. Ember's situation would only make her feel more trapped after learning that her grandfather would reject Bernie due to Bernie wanting to leave Fireland. This would actually cause Ember to push Wade away, to the point where she even had to hurt him, much to her regret. I do have to admit that while I can't relate to the immigrant story in this movie, both its positive and negative portrayals are very well done, so I give the movie props for that. Now let's talk about the comedy, as well as my most hated scene in the whole movie. It doesn't take away my love for this film, but I just loathe this scene, which we'll get to momentarily. My general thoughts on the comedy of the film are that it was okay. It what is pretty much Disney's first rom-com, but it focused more on the rom and less on the com, which I honestly think was the best choice. Now, before I get to the most hated scene, I need to point out that in the midsection of the movie, Ember is introduced to Wade's family, who all have a common trait: the fact that they all cry so easily. It's after meeting the family that Wade's mom gives Ember an opportunity for a glassmaking job, which of course leads Ember to come to the realization that she doesn't want to take over her father's shop. Later on, after Ember sorely rejects Wade at her inheritance ceremony, there's a scene where Wade is at the train station prepared to leave Element City and his family see him off, only for the movie to then make fun of his pain, which just rubs me the wrong way. The comedic tone of this moment just feels like it's taking away from the dramatic tension from the scene that was supposed to be the most intense scene in the movie. Make no mistake when I say this scene really bugs me, but again, doesn't take away from how this movie makes me feel. But of course, in the end, a threat to Firetown in the form of a flood that was established as a leak at the beginning of the movie would bring together our main duo again, make us think that Wade would die, and then have him come back, leading to the two having their own iconic Disney kiss moment. To me, this is the best animated movie kiss we've gotten in a long time, and I have yet to see somebody top it. Now, when it comes to the side characters, I honestly think Claude and Gale were underutilized since fire and water are the main focus of the film. In fact, I actually have a couple ideas where Claude and Gale could have had more of a purpose in this film, but I'll either save that for a separate video or put it in the comments section. But I will say that if there were ever a good time to use Claude and Gale, it probably would have been in at the scene where Firetown was almost flooded, as they could have shown just how compatible they all were working together. Cloud representing Earth, Gale representing air, Wade representing water, and Ember representing fire. In the end, this is a Pixar film that made me feel like I was back in the early 2000s. It even ends in an open-ended Pixar way. After the flood, the movie would skip to months later and have Ember and Wade leave Element City, so Ember could take the internship at the glassmaking firm Wade's mom recommended. Before leaving, Ember would bow to her father, who would bow back as a sign of respect and blessing to leave, something Bernie's father did not return when he and Cinder left Fireland. Ember would then step onto the boat and begin in a new chapter of her life alongside the love of her life. Now, I've got to be honest and say that I desperately hope that Elemental gets some kind of Disney Channel sequel series, so we can explore more of the evolution of Ember and Wade's relationship, as well as build more of the world beyond Element City. If that doesn't happen, then I've got a lot of fanfiction to write. You can even tell that this movie was a passion project, especially when you do enough homework to find out that the director, Peter Sohn, based this movie on the story of his parents, who left Korea to go to New York for a better life. I think I even heard once that Ember and Wade are based off of Peter and his wife, but as of now, I'm not really sure. As for the animation, what else can I say besides that it was flawless as always? Pixar to me is still one of the top tier animation studios in the world, if not the best, and so far that's not changing anytime soon. Finally, let's talk about the soundtrack. There are many instances where we not only got a lot of vocal music, but vocal music in another language. I'm unsure if this music is supposed to be Fire-ish, Elemental's equivalent of Fire People's native language, or if it's supposed to be a real life language. My first guess is Middle Eastern, but what do you guys think? But of course, my favorite song moment comes during the Wade and Ember or dating montage. The song is called Steal the Show by Lauv. I really hope I didn't butcher his name. But to this day, I can't stop up listening to this song on repeat. What can I say? I'm a sucker for romantic and uplifting songs. At the end of the day, I give Elemental 10 out of 10 and put it on the pedestal of legends alongside Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles. But what do you guys think of this movie? Do you love this movie as much as I do despite its flaws? Let me know in the comments below. With all that said and done, I'm JT Anime, and I'll check you guys later.